welcome back to Libib's booktube channel. My name is Kaylin. Welcome back for another bookish video. Today, I made some really tough decisions and I narrowed down my favorite books of 2020, which actually was pretty hard. I didn't read that much. As of right now, I have like maybe 1 or 2 more books to read, but I've read 26 books for the year as of right now, and I'm pretty set on these being my favorites, and I don't see myself finishing any other books anytime soon that would become my favorites. So therefore, I have created this list. Since I didn't read a lot, it was like really hard to decipher what was gonna be my top book. So these, how I normally mention is I start from a certain number and then up to my favorite book, but I feel like these are all on the favorite playing field, like the same level. So yeah, let's get into it. Coming in at number 5, still one of my favorite books of the year. And that's gonna be Warren the 13th and the All-Seeing Eye by Daniel Del Rio and illustrated by Will Stahl. And honestly, this was such a surprise find this year. So I was watching a video, like I've mentioned before, watching Jesse the Rito's video, and he mentions Warren the 13th and the All-Seeing Eye, and I was like, I'm intrigued. It gives off the Series of Unfortunate kind of vibes, at least to me, and the illustrations are just amazing. Maybe if that page will turn, like, they're just so good, and I love it. And I love the color scheme of red, white, and black. And I just love reading this book so much. It talks about Warren the 13th. He's the 13th Warren in his line of Warrens, and he has this evil aunt who has taken control of his uncle. And so now they're on the hunt to find this all-seeing eye throughout the hotel. Magic and chaos ensues, and I can't wait to continue on with the rest of this series with the color schemes and everything, but this was such a surprising find and read for 2020, and I absolutely loved and enjoyed it. If you love comics or graphic novels or children picture books, this is gonna be right up your alley for a favorite good read. 10 out of 10 would highly recommend. Next up is another graphic novel, and that is Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. And I have never read a Brian Lee O'Malley. I've never read or seen Scott the Pilgrim. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take my jab at this. It's always a thicker book. I remember it just being expensive, and I took a chance on it as well this year. And this ended up being one of my favorites because it talks about Seconds, which is our main character's restaurant that she hopes to open. Katie is a really young and talented chef, which also fit what I really liked and enjoyed about this year. I did a lot of cooking, so I found a lot of value in this book with her perspective of cooking, running a restaurant, trying to open another one, but then all of a sudden she finds something magical and it's sets back time, and so every thing she's doing or every outcome she doesn't like, she's resetting back time, and time is just getting all sorts of messed up. And this was definitely one of my favorite books. I love the art style as well, lots of colors. I think the story and the premise is really, really good. And once again, another great graphic novel that I read and enjoyed that had a good storyline. Next up is a comic volume that I loved and enjoyed, and I continued on with the rest of the series this year, and it was great and I loved it. And it was so much fun because we got Midnight Sun this year by Stephanie Meyer, so vampires were on my mind. So I read Vampironica Volume 1. And it's a bunch of people with the name Smallwood and Scott, Hermes, Morelli, and yeah, so I read Volume 1, which laid into Volume 1 and 2 and whatnot, but this talks about Vampironica, and that is Veronica who turns into a vampire. So if you're a fan of Riverdale, like I was, I haven't watched since I don't know what season it was, but they were getting all sorts of nonsense and nothing was really making sense, and it was kind of getting really stupid. Acting was really bad, storyline was going nowhere. So I resulted to this comic instead, and I loved that Veronica became a vampire and all the weird stuff that happens in this book and the volumes that follow it. So I really loved and enjoyed this. I can't wait for more Vampironica volumes, so I'm really excited, and I hope they make another one for 2021 so I can read and enjoy. We're getting down to the last few books. So the second to last book is gonna be The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren, and I loved and adored this book. It talks about our main girl, Olive, who has a twin sister, and she is attending her wedding, and she doesn't eat what everyone else eats, and so everyone else ends up getting food poisoning. So her and her arch nemesis decide to go on the honeymoon that was meant for her sister, and she has to go with the arch nemesis that she cannot stand. And so they go on this honeymoon together and have to pretend that they're a couple and like enemies to lovers. Such a good book. BookTube definitely hyped this one up and it was definitely well worth the read. I also listened to this on audio as well from Audible, so I loved and enjoyed every second of it. And it gave me such warm, fuzzy feelings, and it made me think about relationships and love and how do you go from like the enemies to lovers thing. It just, It's also an adult novel, and I actually read it and enjoyed it and loved it, so woohoo! And last but not least, my favorite book of the year is going to be The Universe of Us by Lang Leave, and I loved this book. This was the book that I annotated for the first time in my entire life, and I'm glad I did so. There's just so much goodness in this poetry collection and so much love, and I just loved and enjoyed this book so much. It was so good, so wholesome, exactly what I needed at the right time, and I just love Lang Leave so much. And I did a little tour up in Madison one time where I took a bookish vacation one weekend, and thank you to whoever that Barnes & Noble bookseller was. You made me find one of my new favorite authors, and I will consume anything that Lang Leave writes. Nothing will top The Universe of Us, so I'm so glad I got to read it and pick it up this year and continue on with the rest of her collections of poetry. So if you want to get into poetry, The Universe of Us by Lang Leave is a great start. Anyways, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. What was one of your favorite reads of 2020? Let me know in the comment section down below, and anyways, I will see you guys next week for a new bookish video.